Boys and girls, it is very cold today. In fact, one second. It was comfortably freezing when I went for my walk. It was like ice, frost on all the cars, all that shit, you know. It's very cold. So cold so that I'm trying to deliberately delay wearing my fluffy, thick hoodie. Long-time viewers of the vlog will know that I basically live in that hoodie, usually. And I'm trying to like delay it so that I appreciate it better, you know? I mean, holy shit, it's so goddamn warm, but no, that's not how we're rolling, not yet. So this morning has been a lot of like admin related stuff. I've been going through organising emails and things I need to do and all that shit, all that boring stuff. But I've just spent the last half an hour or so figuring out how I'm going to do the next bit of my project. To be honest with you, I think I'm in a little bit now where, to be fair, it won't be for very long, but like this little bit that I'm on, it doesn't make sense to plan it out. It is kind of, there are too many unknowns for this to be run in a Scrum-like fashion. So I am Kanbaning it a little bit more. I've been trying to figure out how to access the data about, what's it called? Given commit IDs and all that kind of stuff, figuring out what's changed. So I want to see what files have been changed individually for individual Git commits, and or like all of the Git commits since the last blah blah blah, all of that kind of shit, you know. And that involves playing around with all of the APIs, making sure that I have all of the information that I need to be able to get the data in the first place, and I've got to develop all the models so that I can integrate with it, all of that shit. That's what I've been doing. It's been good fun. Because the thing I'm doing is kind of, I mean, as much as it is find out which files have changed, it's also kind of adding information to something that already exists rather than adding something completely new. So it's a little bit more difficult to figure out kind of like where it's all going to go. I've kind of drawn it out on the whiteboard. I'm about to get into it now. I'm trying to have a bit more of a focus on development and stuff over December. And I'm trying to figure out how far out that goes. I'm taking my foot off the gas for emailing new possible clients. I feel like that is something that isn't going to be necessary for the next month at the very least, but I want to be at a position where I basically have a month's worth of emails ready in January. So I'm going to start generating emails to clients and doing all the research stuff, but I'm just not going to be sending them out. December is a code pushy month. January is going to be a services pushy month. But yeah, I had a bit of a lull recently in my attitude, I guess, and my like ability to focus and concentrate and work productively. I'm trying to get out of that. I'm trying to force my way through it. And that is just gonna have to be a case of just getting stuck in, you know? I feel like I've been trying to figure out how to massage this thing into the way I've been working recently, and it's not really something that would work like that. I need to focus less on how I'm gonna do it and just do it, you know? I feel like this is one of them things which is just difficult to plan, because it's kind of up in the air. Like I say, too many unknowns. It's kind of a spike task rather than a thingy. But yeah, so that's my life right now. It's great. It's good. It's good fun, man. It's good fun. Yeah, I'm in an area of code which isn't simple. It's not like it's not polished as much as other ones. It's one of my oldest microservices, but it's one of the oldest services that's been used quite heavily. And what it's doing is quite complicated in the sense that it's like talking to several data services, it's storing data, it's firing a message on the bus. It's a complicated area, and trying to figure out kind of where everything sits in that is relatively complicated. Its bare minimum, it would have been like extending the mappers, and that's kind of what I thought it would have been, but I need to do an extra API call. And I'm trying to make it as resilient as possible in the sense that each message on the bus only does one thing, and I've kind of already skirted that rule a little bit because in one scenario I am downloading information and storing it in a database, and the other one, in the same scenario, I'm then storing information about that upload into the database in another database. So it's kind of like trying to figure out kind of where everything slices in. I think I've figured it out now, and it's just a case of doing it, I guess. But yeah, otherwise I am just trying to keep my head in the game and keep focused. I think that's what I've been struggling with most of all is just kind of getting pulled around. I'm trying to do too much at once, and I need to pick something and run at it. Whether or not I should be picking this. But the problem is when you pick one thing and run at it, you then start to feel like that's not the thing you should be running at, and you should be running at other things. And then you go back into the world of trying to spin too many plates at once, basically. I'm only one person, and constantly task switching is an inefficient way of working. I mean, like, this is the world I'm in, right? So if you look online at the Azure DevOps REST API, it gives you like documentation for what's going down, right? So like this here is the response, is a sample response from the jobber, but then it talks about like the definitions and whatnot. So your git commit changes, right? It's a change count dictionary and an array of git change. So that's this bit, change counts, changes, yeah? Inside this, so in, oh fucking hell, sorry guys. In git change, if you go to that, you have change ID, change type, item, new content, blah, 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 right? No, you don't. You have an item and a change type. All of this other stuff isn't there. What's an item? A string. No, it's not. Why does this directly contradict what this gives and what the actual API gives? This is why this is always more finicky than you expect it to be. Because I know for a fact that that's not the case. I know that these definitions are not true. So why? I don't get it. It's going well. It's going well today. I've just finished. I've just made my cup of tea. I've just done a load of application stuff. I was doing development stuff before lunch. I'm about to jump back into development stuff. But I feel like I'm finding it very easy to just kind of get half distracted, you know? I feel like I need to spend some time working out of the house somewhere. So I think like tomorrow I might go to a cafe or something just to get out and about a bit. I feel like I think that's my problem potentially, is I just need to do some work like on my laptop and do something a little bit different. I've also got a hot water bowl, if you don't know what that is. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, I can't explain it. I feel like maybe I'm feeling a bit cooped up, but I was out and about yesterday, but I didn't do any work anywhere else yesterday. I was kind of just milling around like an idiot, but. Can't really believe how stuck I am with this. I'm trying to do programming, and I feel like I'm struggling to get into programming. I'm actually spending more time on admin stuff. There's actually like not just bullshit admin stuff either, like productive admin stuff. And it's normally the opposite way around. But I've just been smashing my head against. I'm gonna walk away because I'm clearly going code blind. I'm trying to configure a type converter, but it's very important in this type converter that I figure out how many times. 1 second. I need to know how many times I've called the resolution context, and it's calling the mock. The mock is registering 3 calls, and I can't figure out why. I really can't. And it's like, I've gone through a couple of iterations. I'm looking at the source code of this thing that I'm mocking out, because they changed the way the resolution context works. Like, it implements the interface that I want to mock, and then you pass in the mapper, then it like kind of half uses itself, kind of half uses the mock that you passed in. It's weird. I don't know why they've done it like that at all, to be honest with you. It's bizarre. Well, the reason is because they didn't want to have an eye resolution context for unknown reasons. So instead they were like, right, let's have a resolution context. Oh, but then how are people going to mock it? So let's take the eye resolution context, take an eye runtime mapper, and then we can just refer to that. But instead of just having like a dot map, which gives access to the iRuntime mapper, it then also implements iRuntime mapper. So then .map just returns this, and then this then does an explicit interface implementation of iRuntime mapper, which then calls inner. And you're like, why? Why is that as complicated as it sounds? It doesn't need to be that complicated. But anyway, I'm going to step away for a little bit. I'm going to play some Xbox till Laura gets back, and then I'm going to cook dinner and start doing some more admin stuff, I think. But yeah, I feel like to do the bit that I'm excited about doing, programming-wise, I've got to get through this really like shitty bit, you know? And yeah, it's just making myself do that shitty bit. So I've kind of come to the point where I'm just I'm working on the things that I'm finding easy to work on, in an attempt to make myself beat myself up less about how much work I'm doing, because I'm trying to make out that I feel like I'm giving the impression that I'm not working much, but I'm working, or like, it's that divide of, I feel like I'm not working enough because I'm not really being productive, but I'm working all the time. And that's like the worst combination, because then you just beat yourself up and want to work more and then feel bad when you don't. But today I have been filling out an application for a kind of an incubator thing. That's nearly done, to be honest with you. I've got one last difficult-ish question to answer, which requires a little bit more research. I've done my accounts. My company is due to put its accounts up to Companies House. I say that they're not due until like June next year, but that's not the way I roll. When I'm doing a lot of research into like clients and all there is, clients and stuff, I do a lot of looking on Companies House, and it really doesn't look good, I don't think, when people don't update it in time and get like strikes and stuff. It looks shoddy, to be honest with you. And I feel like if you're going to do your accounts, they've got to be like solid up until October 31st. So why do it in June? You know, October's just finished, so let's do it in November. You know, that's just the way my mind works. You know, it's just the way I think. So yeah, that's what I've been doing this morning. Been living the dream. I'm just trying to get comfortable and just kind of working away. I've got a couple of like odd little bits I need to do today. I like on my walk back, I need to pick up some bread, to put the washing away and all that kind of shit. But we're just being productive, and we're just making ourselves realise that we're being productive, more to the point. You know what? Touching wood, I feel like things are starting to slowly click into place. Like I say, I'm struggling a bit with development. I'm about to finish off this thing after lunch, but then I'm going to jump onto some development after that. But yeah, I feel like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. But you go through these roller coasters. It's all, life's a roller coaster, baby, and you've just got to ride it, you know. Or as the great Daniel Ricciardo once says, sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it. And that's my attitude. That's what I'm doing, boys. Right, let's have some lunch, and then do the washing up, do some jobs around the house. The trick to that, oh, I've left my glass upstairs. The trick to that as well is not to watch. I'm watching Suits again, just because I need something to do, to take my mind off stuff, basically, at lunchtime. Obviously too much, because I'm walking and leaving glasses behind and stuff. But what I normally do is like watch it on the Nexus and then transfer it to the TV while I'm eating my lunch. So I watch it while I'm making my sandwiches. But then because I put it on the TV, I sit and watch it all. But if I leave it on the Nexus, then I can walk around and do stuff after I've eaten my sandwiches, you know? Something I'm trying to figure out. I'm doing the mappers from the external third-party Git. Let me lift up this phone so you can see me a bit more. I've got a hot water bottle on my lap though, so I don't want to drop that. It's not even warm anymore. So, just say legacy. I'm doing the mappers from a third-party API. This is Azure DevOps Git version control API. And there is a little bit of a cross-contamination in the sense that their version control API supports, what's it called? It's not, the old SVN and Git. Obviously, no one cares about SVN anymore. And I have the task of simplifying their models, their API responses, and mapping them into something that means something to my world. There's no point me just taking their entire model and just storing it in my land, because that would take a shitload of data and I don't need it. Also, it'll add complexity in places where it doesn't need it. It makes it harder to support more than one data source, all that kind of shit. So what I want to do is I want to map their model into a common data source. However, they have an enum. An enum is, you know what an enum is. It stores all of the different states that a change could be in. It's called version control change type. So I'm relatively interested in the change type that's happened. I want to know whether or not the file was deleted or edited, for example. And an edit is more important to me than a delete. But there's a lot of weird things in here. So I've decided that the kind of changes I care about are adds, deletes, undeletes, renames, and edits. They're the things I care about, because I won't process a rename or a delete. I'll process an undelete, an add, and part of an edit, right? However, in this list, they've got all. All, so here's the ones I don't know what they are. All, branch, encoding, I can guess what encoding is, but encoding nonetheless. Lock, merge, none, property, rollback, which I guess is somewhat similar to edit. And I'm trying to map them to my ones that I care about. But the thing is, like, what's a branch change type? I guess it can't happen on a file. The problem is, like, I have a very limited data set. There is no documentation on this shit. And I have a very limited, like, data set. All I could do, like, the way I can find this out is by generating commits and then checking what the change type is by querying the data using the commit ID from the API. Like, but that's a really limited, difficult to pull off. So what does all mean? What's all when it's at home? So Git itself has added, copied, deleted, modified, renamed. T had their type / mode changed. U unmerged, unknown, and pairing broken, and then all or none. Ooh. I think I've just figured it out. No, but that's a filter. Oh, maybe it's for filter purposes. So if you're querying their API, you can say, I want to get all of the edits. Or you can say, I want to get none. Like all, no. Oh, maybe it's a query thing. See, again, like this is what makes it so difficult to figure out. Because this enum apparently seems to be used for not only is it being used for Git and SVN, but it's also being used for two different things, querying and not querying. It must be querying. And it must be effectively like, hey, get me all of them. Because you can do filter, you can filter diffs. Let's try and prove that. This is what I'm doing. It's fun. I thought I'd rubber duck that out loud because I've just kind of half cracked it a little bit. It's not that, boys. It is not that. Which makes me wonder what I should do about it. What do you do about it? Because I'm in a type converter. I'm trying to go to an enum for a reason. I could just use strings. I feel like blowing up and throwing an exception is aggressive. I think that's too aggressive. But equally, maybe I've just got to chuck a logger in here. Equally, I don't want to map it to... I don't want to lose the information, you know. If I do get something that I don't recognise, I don't want to lose that information. So maybe if I create my own one that's like unknown, that's enough of a flag in my databases to be like, I could query for unknowns, and then I could log what the original was, and also I could just look it up at that point because I'll have all the data I need to see, like, kind of for myself what the change type is for. My guess is that a lot of this stuff, like branch, is not for files, it's for like folders and other things, because I'm assuming that this applies to items, which isn't just a file. So yeah, this is where I'm at. I'm thinking about going for a walk though. I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to figure out what my options are. I think I'm going to set up an unknown option. I'm going to map things like there are 3 different types of rename to rename. And otherwise map everything else to unknown and log the fact that it happened. Which I can do, I'll use my logger stuff to do that. Should we do that? I think that sounds like the best plan. Let me write that down, and then otherwise, let's get ready to go for a walk. You know my like perpetual argument with loggers, right? I think I've talked about this before. Loggers shouldn't be loggers. Like, Microsoft made a change to make you pass in iLogger into the constructor of things you need to log, rather than using a static instance of iLogger factory. They added it to the constructor so that it could be used in dependency injection more easily. Fair play. However, because it's on the constructor, it means it's a dependency. Right. Here we go. So, right, if it's on the constructor and it's a dependency, that usually means, my idea of a dependency is that you need it to be there in order for it to work. I actually want to do some logging here. I don't often log, to be honest with you. I find that often if you're logging something, you don't need to log it, right? So therefore, it's kind of like an additional extra. It's like something you turn on for debugging purposes. So therefore, isn't a constructor parameter, but that's fine. Hypothetically, let's say that we are passing it in, and it's so important to us that we want to test it. It's on the fucking constructor. It's a dependency. We want to test it, right? Imagine that world. Good luck to you, fam, because we've just made one of the parameters that it passes to one of the 1,000,001 extension methods that you want to mock. One of those parameters is internal sealed, just for shits and giggles. Fucking Microsoft, man. I've got something in my eye as well. They just do it to themselves. I don't know why. They talk this big game about like making things testable and stuff, and then they just throw in a random sealed class, just slap bang in the middle of it, as part of .NET Core 3. They're just like, oh yeah, let's just fuck everyone. There we go. So it looks like this thing isn't going to be tested. It's a good job I'm not even injecting it into the dependency injection, because that would be a pain in the ass, wouldn't it? Just the idea, like, so stupid. It's so fucking dumb. Oh. God, what we're going to do is we're going to do this thing. We're going to create a logger that we're going to try and force you to dependency inject, and then we're going to make it impossible to test. Fucking clowns. I'm very opinionated when it comes to Laura's also being naughty right now, because I'm cooking dinner and I was like, hey, give me a heads up because dinner takes a long time to cook. She said, oh, I'm just waiting for a bus. Oh, is that it now, is it? Oh. I said, give me a heads up early because I need to, it takes a long time to cook. Cheese potato pie, it's lovely, but it takes a long time to cook. So what does she do? She just messages me the normal time when she's leaving Old Market, which usually means it's time to put the rice on, but rice doesn't take as long as cheese potato pie. I'm not sure I can quantify how much that logging thing has really annoyed me. It's a 30-minute video between friends, eh, boys and girls? We are having a great old day today. Right, what do I need here? Just making myself my 10 o'clock cup of tea, and I'm gonna get myself comfortable and get my little hot water bottle as well, because it's quite nippy today, goddammit. I'd planned for today to become a bit more of a programming kind of day, but it's split in two halves. Firstly, I am doing a shitload of programming. I need to test the service I'm in isn't as good to test. It's one of the older ones, so it's not got my new testing layout and framework configured for it yet, and it's a bit too big just to smack it in now, just for banter. So I'll add it in eventually at some point, but when I need something to do, you know, rather than when I desperately need less to do. So I am racing ahead, trying to get it to the point where I can put a message on the bus with my test harness and test the interaction. The interaction with a third-party API is always a bit finicky. There's like, it's not ideal. It doesn't work in the way that you'd expect it to. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. But we're getting there. I'm pushing forward on that, but then what I'm also doing is doing loads of research and preparation for a meeting I've got tomorrow. I didn't plan on having a meeting tomorrow, but it got organised yesterday, and I'm excited about it. And I just want to make sure that I know exactly what I'm walking into, you know? It has potential to be a good one, more so than other ones. So I am doing my research into the person that I'm going to go see, and prepping the kind of thing that I'm going to say. So yeah. It's going to be one of those meetings where I have to do, well, I'm going to have to distill what it is that I do down to someone so that they can understand it. This person is relatively technical, so I shouldn't have to go as simplified as I normally have to do, but I want to make sure that's nice and polished. I've been thinking about setting up my tripod on my big camera and like practicing it and then doing it again, but I feel like that's a bit too... My general stance with things like presentations, I'm quite good at doing presentations in front of people and stuff. My general stance is not to over rehearse them, or rehearse them really at all, apart from like nailing down the points that you want to say, because I think it's obvious when something is over rehearsed, and I think it looks less authentic. It's a completely personal thing. And that comes from someone who is used to just kind of turning on the camera and just saying something, you know, not without having thought about what I'm going to say. I just turn the camera on and talk. So I'm kind of used to it. But this is the kind of thing that's supposed to be polished and concise. So I'm thinking about it. I'm like trying to figure out like kind of how to approach the sentences and stuff. That's my day. It's a bit cold as well in the house. I've just said I feel like my arm is shaking. All right then, ladies and gentlemen, we nailed it. We're pretty happy with what we've got going on in the land of integrations with Azure DevOps. We're happy with that. Works. I just need to do the tidying up parts of the consumer integrations now. And the message bus integrations, I tested it before hooking everything up because then I don't have to deal with. My test harness is so much better. I didn't have my test harness when I first did this microservice, and testing this kind of stuff was such a pain in the ass because it's like a long ass chain of events that all raise from each other. Good times. Otherwise, played a little bit of Formula 1 and standard stuff, and otherwise prepped. I'm going to end the video here, ladies and gentlemen. We're up early tomorrow. Hopefully, tomorrow is good, and then we can have a good run at the weekend. Or tomorrow could be bad and it won't be good at all. We'll see. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I've got to get up early. I'll catch you later.